and also share the meeting link. So the point of this call is for us to start looking at CVs and getting ready for the job that we want. If you are taking this course, I'm sure it's because you want to either get a job or you want to change the one you currently have. 1 minute, CV class. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is going to be some practical class. There is not going to be any notes for me to give to anybody. We just talk about what you are facing in your job search. We look at your CV individually, as many CVs as I can look at in the next 3 weeks. We look at them, we give feedback. You apply the feedback I give based on somebody's CV to your own CV, so I don't have to repeat things. But before we go into that, I would just like to give some sort of foundation to the entire course and why we are doing this. Most of the time, when people get into tech, I mean, 90% of the time, people that I've met that got into tech, it's never because they have passion, just passion for tech, or because they are just interested. I've never really met anyone. Maybe I just have a bad group of people around me, but I've not really met anyone who got into tech just because they want to. Okay, because it's not such an easy thing to do that you just want to do because you just want to do it. Many people who do it is because they are trying to get a better life for themselves. They're trying to switch their jobs. They're trying to get a new job. They're trying to build a product, something they believe only tech will give them the ability to do, or they are trying to increase their advantage. Um, there are so many countries now who would welcome you into their country because you're a tech person. The UK does it. Germany does it. So many people do it. It's also easier for people in tech to get jobs internationally. Either you work from your country or they actually move it into their own country. So different reasons why people do it, why people get into tech. Regardless of why you get into tech, you still need to be able to present your effort, your experience, your skills in a page on the paper because people will likely not meet you one-on-one to offer you a job or to get to know you better. The first thing they will likely do is to look at whatever you write on paper. And that means you have to put your best foot ahead. In the paper, whatever you write has to be the best thing about yourself so that whoever looks at it would be interested enough to come across to you and say, hey, look, I would like to meet with you based on what I've seen in your CV. I would like to speak with you. Personally, have attended several interviews. I have written a lot of CVs for me myself, and I have written CVs for people. I have looked at people's CVs. I've interviewed people. I've been interviewed. I'm still currently interviewing for a role at Zuri. My last personal interview was 2 years ago. That I had to get interviewed for a job. So I do have experience in these things. But obviously there will be people here who have also gone through similar situations where you've done interviews, you've learned from those interviews, you've written several CVs, you've gotten feedback in the past. I'll be very happy if you can share your experience when the time comes. If I say something you agree with or you don't agree with, 100%, just call my attention to it and um, speak up. So whatever I say would be based on my own experience, based on my own the little things that I know about job seeking and searching for jobs. Um, a couple of years ago, I created a platform called isthisarealjob.com, although I shut it down eventually. But the point of the platform then was to help people to determine if the job they are trying to apply to is an actual job or somebody trying to kidnap them. The reason why I created that platform was, I think, I can't remember, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, it became so much popular that people will advertise jobs and they will say, hey, we'll pay you, as at then anyway, they will say, we'll pay you like 150K per month. If you have all these skills, come and drop your CV at so place. And when you try to do that, several things happen in those places. So at this particular course, one of the things we'll be looking at is how to even search out the jobs that you want, not just applying for anything that you come across. And I do have experience in doing this. Let me share one of them. I think 3 years ago, before I eventually decided to leave the country, um, I was looking for I had a remote job. I was looking for something that was not coding based. I didn't want to code anymore. I wanted to just go into something else and see if I could explore other things. So I went for project management courses. I did the certification. I also did business analysis courses and got BA in from his BCS. So after I got that, I applied for. I decided to search out some specific type of roles that I know would fit what I was looking for at that point. I was looking for something that would give me the time to be able to build my own company, something that I could do from home to give me opportunity to spend that with my own family, and something that pays me enough to be able to sustain all these things, pay my own staff, pay myself, and be able to afford whatever kind of life I want to live. So I applied to maybe 3 jobs because I had a specific kind of thing I was looking for. One of the things I did then was I never applied to any job that did not have the range of amount they're going to pay. And this is not, I'm not asking you to do this. I'm just sharing with you that sometimes when you're searching for jobs, you need to have the mindset as to the kind of jobs you're looking for before you start applying. Because if you don't, you will find yourself applying for 1,001 jobs. And even when the opportunity comes to pursue any of them, then you are too confused or too distracted by the 100 jobs you've applied for that you eventually don't pass the interviews. Okay, so sometimes it's always better to have a criteria for yourself before you start applying for jobs. So all these things that I've said, which is number one, have a criteria. What kind of jobs are you looking for? Why are you in tech? Are you trying to get a job? Are you trying to just improve yourself? Are you trying to switch your job? Are you trying to build your own company? Just think about all of those things as we go into this CV review and talking about jobs. Because no matter what I say, the lesson you get would be based on your goal. If I say, look, as at then I was looking for a job and I never applied to any job that didn't have specific amount specified in the job posting. That might not apply to you right now, and it might apply to you. So whatever you hear me say, the lesson you get from it or the understanding or whatever you get from it would be based on the goal that you have. If you don't have any goal, you would probably just be wasting your time here. Okay, so have a think about that now before we go any further. Why are you trying to get a CV review course? Why did you even choose the course? It is just that it sounded interesting and you're like, let's just get somebody to write the CV for me. Um, because that's very important to me. Okay. Another reason why it is important to have a goal is um it will be also be good for me as a person, and it will be good for Zuri that after you finish this course, even though we called it a beginner course, that after you finish this course, you are able to get the kind of jobs that you want. Okay. People only come back to you to tell you, look, Sheyi, I got that job when it is the type of job they want. So I would like you to have a goal in mind of the type of job that you want so that when you get that job, you can then come back to me and say, look, I got the kind of job I wanted. Because we've trained a lot of people since 2020. Only a few have come back to say, we got the kind of jobs that we want. Okay. Some people just say, I got a job, I'm just managing it for now. That's not a bad thing. It's just that I would really like for everyone here to get the specific kind of jobs that you want. Okay. So let's talk about CVs. I've already hinted that a CV is basically your first introduction without you actually introducing yourself. So you need to find a way to write a story that is interesting enough on the cover. Somebody wants to dig deeper into the book. You don't want to write a shabby CV. I'm trying to close a couple of things so I can share my screen and then we can start taking some notes. So you don't want to, and this is something that happens very often. You find yourself applying to so many jobs that you just tune away from actually making any effort, and you just basically send the same CV to everybody. Um, that's not a good thing. It's just that sometimes you don't have a choice. You just get tired of writing CVs and rewriting them and writing. I hate cover letters even till now, to be fair. I used to hate it more, but I still hate it now. Um, because the cover letter can be very difficult to write. Okay. And it's also quite important. Apart from your CV, that's also something you can use to show them that you are a perfect fit for the role. So your CV should be like a story that describes who you are and why you are valuable to their company. Okay. And the who you are should not just be about you, it should be about your experience. So that would mean things that are not necessarily relevant to your experience or to the goal or to the purpose of the job you are trying to apply to should not be in your CV. And this is quite controversial, but I don't believe things like marital status, primary school education, sometimes even secondary school education, should be in your CV if you're applying for a tech role. Because really, those things, they have nothing to contribute to your job. It doesn't, the fact that you're married does not mean you'll be a better developer. Okay, so it doesn't tell me as the employer anything about what you are bringing to my company, and you're just wasting that space in your CV. Sometimes it's better to have a one-page CV than to have like 3 pages that has a bunch of things that is not relevant to the employer. Okay, so personally, things like marital status, primary school education, secondary school education, I don't really like seeing them. I don't like seeing things like religion, because in the real sense, it doesn't matter what your religion is. I just want to see that you can do the job. You've done it before. You can show me experience that you've done it before. You can show result. So that's the first thing. Take away, in my opinion, take away any of these personal things that doesn't really say anything about your job or your experience or the skills you are bringing to my company. Another thing you should definitely do in your CV, you should, because you are painting a picture, you are writing a story, you can't just be writing a story and dive, if you're watching a movie, you can't just expect them to just start fighting at the beginning of the movie without any backstories. So usually they would either throw you in the middle of the movie and then walk you back to the beginning, or they will just start from the beginning and go from top to bottom. That's the way your CV should be. Your CV should be arranged in such a way that it starts from somewhere, paints a picture of who you are, what you can do, and what you've done, and then goes to show what you can then do for them as a company. Okay. Let me see if I can find one of my own CVs. And I will stop recording when I show my CV because I can't upload my CV to YouTube. Let me just search. Just 1 minute. Are there any comments so far on everything I've said? I will start by reviewing my own CV, then we will go. I will ask if anyone has a CV to share, then we'll look at it, and that will be all for today. In the next class, we'll check some more CVs. And then I'll give you some take-home assignments, which would be, basically searching out the kind of jobs that you want. But I'll give you more details on that. All right, yeah. Divine, your hand is up. Please speak. Uh, yeah, you want your mic, not your video.
Sorry, I wasn't really hearing you. The fact that you said CV should involve not just talking about yourself, but what you should offer for the company, the benefit the company has for employing you. That's the part I don't really get. Can you please explain more on that?
So you are
Because I've
not.
not come across any CV that tells what you have to like. It's always about your past experience, but not necessarily what you offer to the company. So I don't know. Can you please explain that more to me? I didn't get that.
Okay. Okay. Good question. So what I mean is, if I am going to employ somebody and the person has written in their CV that they've done this in this particular company and they were able to achieve this particular result, while that makes some sense to me, I would like to also see that the person has done things that actually relates to my own company. Okay. So let me see if I can give a more practical example. If I was working at a company as a web developer, not say I just manage their WordPress website. And while managing their WordPress website, I found a way to make it run 70% faster. And I've been able to achieve that for them. And I'm trying to apply to a job that uses React.js as their main language, not WordPress. Okay. If I'm writing my CV for that job, I need to write my CV in such a way that it paints a picture to the React.js employer that this guy produces results regardless of the tool. That's what I mean by what I said earlier. So you're not necessarily writing specifically saying that, oh, though I've never used React.js, but I can manage to use it. No, you're saying that I've used a tool before and I've been able to achieve this result. I'm showing you the result I can achieve with regardless of the tool that I get my hands on. You can also kind of paint a picture saying that, look, in the past, I've had to learn a new language under 2 weeks because I had a task that required that language. That tells me, as an employer, that this person is willing to do as much as humanly possible to achieve whatever task I've assigned to them, even if it includes them learning a new language. This person will achieve results for my company. So that's what I mean by you're not just writing things, you know, based on what you've done. You're not just listing these things. You're also sort of painting a picture for me as the employer that I can achieve this equal result in your company. Okay, hopefully that was helpful. Chinedu, your hand is up. Is this a follow-up or a separate question?
That's it.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, you talked earlier about knowing the job that you actually want to apply for, want to go for. I
Yeah.
kind of find that confused because I don't know how like you get a precise job that you want to actually go for. Because most times you might have you might want to go for like let's say you're going for a React.js job and then at the end of the day there'll be like 100 applicants already. So
Mm-hmm.
most of the times, because I'm speaking out of experience, recently I applied to a lot of jobs. So after applying, I actually got one feedback, two, sorry, I got two feedbacks. And the language they were actually talking about was mobile development. It's also React Native. Though I'm not that good at React Native, but I'm very very good at web development as well. So they actually gave me a task which I couldn't actually deliver in the range of time they gave me. So that's why I'm asking, how can one actually get the precise jobs that they actually want to do for?
Yeah, so the word precise might not be the best word to use to describe it, but you should have an idea of the kind of job you want to apply to. And I'm not even talking about skills like okay, mobile development or whatever. I'm talking about the kind of job. Okay.
Okay.
Are you looking for a remote job? Are you looking for a job that have hybrid? For example, when I was looking for, I was not searching to be fair, but somewhere at the back of my mind, before I got this my current job, I understood what I wanted. I wanted an hybrid situation because when you have kids, it's just almost impossible to be absolutely effective at your work if you work all 100% from home. So I felt like it would be best for me as an individual to have an hybrid situation where I go to the office a couple of days a week and I can then work from home the rest of the days of the week. That's what I was looking for. I was also looking for something that could allow me to live a certain type of life. So I wanted to live in a certain area. I wanted to be able to afford the kind of vehicle I wanted. I wanted to be able to take some trips when I wanted. So I need the job that can help me to afford all of that while providing me the flexibility I needed for my family, for my own personal growth, and so on. Another thing I wanted was a company that also prioritize employee training, which is what my current company does. They prioritize employee training a lot. They have a fixed Udemy account where you can just go and add any course to the cart and you submit a request to the finance team and they look at the course and pay for the course for you. Obviously, you have to finish it because if you don't finish, they will ask you to go and finish that one first. But basically, that's what I was looking for. So I was looking for a place that had flexibility, like I've mentioned. I was looking for the kind of company that could pay the kind of money I wanted. And then I was also looking for companies that was interested in my growth personally. Um, I found those three things in this particular company. You understand? And that's why I've been with them for almost 2 years now. So that's what I meant. I'm not saying you should look for a company that only offers a certain language, which obviously is I don't have to say that. You have to only go after companies that actually use the language that you know or you are willing to learn. But I also meant that you need to set certain guidelines, like I've mentioned. So let's say while I was interested in companies that offered hybrid, obviously, if you don't have a job at all, it becomes difficult to choose and to let go of some jobs. So you also need to tell yourself, what are the things I can compromise on? If I had no job at all and I was only interested in hybrid, but I didn't have any job at that point, and I get a job that says, well, even though I can offer you training, I can pay this kind of money, not up to what you wanted, but I can pay this. I cannot offer hybrid. As a human being who has responsibilities, I would likely accept to go after the jobs that, offered full on-site, not hybrid that I really wanted. But my priority would still be applying for jobs that offered everything that I wanted. Do you understand? So it's like shooting for the moon or whatever the adage is. Like you're shooting for a particular thing, the highest point you can think of. But then even if you don't get to that highest point, you will at least get to some area that would be a bit comfortable for you, and then you can grow from there. Does that make sense? I can't remember the person that asked the question, but hopefully that was a bit helpful. So,
Yeah, it's Chinese. Yeah, it's very
oh,
helpful. I don't know
okay,
if I let me ask one more thing.
go on.
So what? How do one actually filter those kinds of jobs? Like how do one actually like go about it? Let's say you want this kind of certain job and you want to embark on searching and because I know quite alright if you want to look for jobs, you have to like research about the company and all and stuff like that. But how do one actually go about probably like getting filtering on those um key points like that?
Okay, that's a good question. So, a couple of platforms offer you those filters, specifically filters. Look, I think LinkedIn offers those filters. You can filter by location. You can even filter by specific industry. You can also filter by if they offer hybrid or remote or on-site or any whatever it is you want. So
Yeah.
you could use those platforms to sort of filter. That's one way. Another thing I have done personally in the past was to actually go after certain companies and actually contacted somebody at the company. And the last time I did that, I think 2018 or 19, I did get interview with about two or three of them. One of them was bad. The interview was very bad, but the other two were quite okay. I passed the first two stage of interview and then eventually didn't get a job. But that's another thing you can do. That's the point of this, talk anyway. You can actually still go after specific companies and contact somebody there. But before you even start doing all these things, just clean up your own, how do I say it? It's like prepare yourself for the opportunity before you start going after the opportunity. Does that make sense? So make sure
Yeah,
your CV
yeah.
is, yeah, make sure your CV is there. Make sure you've put some kind of portfolio together. You've practiced a lot about how you're going to interview. You've done you've done as many reviews as possible. You created different versions of your CV. You've created your what's it called now? What's that letter you write at the front of your CV? Some,
That's yeah the heading.
sorry.
Cover
Um,
letter.
Yeah, the
Cover
cover.
letter.
So you've written your cover letter and you are prepared for the opportunity whenever it comes. Then you go after those companies. One of those companies I went for, I think, was Leadway Insurance. Yeah, definitely Leadway Insurance. I was interested in Leadway Insurance because I met somebody, a senior engineer who worked at Leadway Insurance, and he was telling me about the company is looking forward to having much more flexible languages. They were just 100% on net.net as at then. So they wanted to diversify into using mobile development with a different language and have some JavaScript development. So I was applying as a JavaScript developer as at then. And they didn't have any roles on their website or any other jobs that I could find. So I looked and on LinkedIn, searched for anyone that worked at Leadway. Eventually found somebody who said used to work as HR, reached out to the person, took the person like 4 or 5 days to reply me. He said, "Oh, I no longer work there, but I can ask you to reach out to this person." And then what he did was that was even awesome was he gave me the general HR email. Most companies have HR at something something email. So he gave me that email. I
yeah.
wrote my cover letter, forwarded my CV to them, and said, "I'm open to come in and have a conversation with you if you have any question about what I've sent to you in terms of my cover letter and my CV." I got a reply back and they asked me to come in. I went for the first interview, passed it, went for the second one, passed it. And then eventually they said, "Well, we decided to go with somebody else because the person also has a .NET experience in addition to JavaScript experience," which means obviously if I was a business owner, I would have gone for the person too because I don't know anything about .NET as at then. So that's another thing you can do. You can definitely go after specific companies. You can say, I like this kind of company. I like what they do. I like how they do it. I've heard about them. You've done research about them, and you just go after them. See, the worst that could happen is for them to say no. Okay, and sometimes employers also appreciate those kind of people reaching out and saying, I need a job. I can be valuable to your company. Let me know if you will be interested in speaking with me about this. That some employers really like that. Obviously if they can afford it. So that's another way you can do that. You can use all these platforms like Indeed, LinkedIn, and just filter based on your own personal criteria. Obviously, you have to be as realistic as possible with your criteria. Okay. Um. So let me mute you, Chinedu, if you don't mind. I keep getting some feedback from you. So, a time I think 2017 or 16 or something. I was working at a company, the owners of Cool FM and Wazobia TV and the rest and like that. And somebody reached out and said he had a contract, and he's looking for somebody who can just occasionally work on his platform for him. He doesn't want to hire a full-time person, blah, blah, blah. I said, and he asked me how much I'd be interested in collecting. Somebody recommended me. The problem was I had a very unrealistic goal as at that time. I was already working, so I was already comfortable. I had the company had a place where you can stay, so I didn't have to worry about going back home every day and struggling in traffic. And it was on the island. Everything was just quite comfortable as at then. Um, so I told the guy I'll be okay with $2,500 every month. And that's the end. He never replied me again. Okay, well, he replied. He said, laughing out loud, and then he just blocked me everywhere and moved on with his life. Because as at then in Nigeria in 2017, to be asking somebody to pay you $2,500 every month on a part-time job for somebody who was also in Nigeria was just absolutely unrealistic and ridiculous, to be fair. So you have to be as realistic with your goal as possible. It's good to have visions and purposes and goals and all of that, but you have to be realistic with it. Okay? If you've just been a developer for 2 months or 3 months, you can't be expecting a company to pay you 200,000 or whatever like that every month. Many companies would rather pay you as little as they can afford because you are a risk to them. This is just being fair, okay? I have a company and I know some people are a risk. Even recently, as recent as maybe 2 months ago, I had to let go of some people because the risk was just too much. I kept paying them and I couldn't see any results. Somebody took maybe 2 months to work on like 4 pages of a mobile application, and even when you tested, it was not responsive. He said he was going to finish the one part before he now do responsiveness. I don't want to keep those kind of people on my team. Okay, so if you're not realistic with your current position, you're looking for something like others are getting. You go on Twitter and you see somebody saying, "Oh, this is my new apartment. Oh, I'm coming from here. This is where I am now." You're trying to get to where they have without really going through what they went through, you will just, disappoint yourself. So I think the best thing you can do is to do a self-evaluation, and say, really, if I had a company based on my own skills and based on how long I've been doing this job, based on how long it will even take me to, for example, develop one single page using HTML and CSS, how much can I afford to pay myself? And if this amount is not enough for me to sustain myself, if I was paying myself this salary, I can't afford to live the life I want to live, then what you need to do is to refine your goal and to re-strategize, okay? Um, Obviously, you cannot let that derail you or stop you from searching, okay? And another thing we can also agree on is um, sometimes jobs are supposed to be a stepping stone to something much more better, okay? So you can accept that this is not what I want right now. This is not my goal. My goal for the next year is to be earning this amount, to be working in a place like this, and so on and so forth. But you can then break it down into smaller pieces and say, okay, because I'm just really too young in this thing, even me, I don't want to get a job that pays 2,000. The pressure will be too much. I just want a job that will be enough for me to sustain whatever it is I need to sustain now and learn at the job. So we need to also be willing to do that, which I had to do a lot, to be fair. Um, I had to do that a lot. And I am not complaining. I'm just saying that you have to do those things. I had a fairly straight journey in terms of my career. I was able to easily switch from being a lab scientist to being a computer science person and so on and so forth. It was fairly easy to be fair. So we just need to be a bit more realistic with our goals, okay? So regardless of the future you want for yourself, what can you attain now? I think that should be your first step. What can I attain now based on my limited experience, my limited skills? You cannot be going after senior level jobs, or even to be fair, sometimes you can't even go after mid-level jobs because now the issue with um categories of jobs also is that it's mostly about location. So recently, there is this app that they started using recent. I don't know what it's called, but I'm sure if you Google it, you can find it. If you put your LinkedIn profile, it will tell you how you rate in your current location. So when I put my profile and I changed my location to the UK, I was like junior engineer according to the platform. But when I put my profile and I changed my location to Nigeria, I was considered senior engineer. So that while this is not very accurate, it's just that sometimes your skill level is also location based. If people in a country that you want to apply to or you want to eventually move to have much more experienced people there, you have to start from somewhere. Okay. Don't start applying for remote jobs that will just be breaking your heart now. You have to start from somewhere closer by that you can always um you can always grow from there and learn from there. Okay, right. I think I've been rambling for too long. So any questions? Um Before I show you my CV, it's my it's not a developer CV. I do have developer CV. This is a sort of CEO kind of CV. It doesn't really matter anyway. It's just the principle behind it that really matters. So I'll use my CV as an example. And then if you have your CV here, if you're willing to share, I will ask in the next 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll look at your CV to see if we can sort of learn from it. Okay, let me share my screen now. Any questions before I share my screen?
Yes, I have a question, if I can. Can
Yeah,
I
please.
talk?
Yeah, please.
Okay. In the case of when it has to do with degrees,
Mhm.
in terms certificate and all of that, um, does it really has great effect when it has to do with applying for jobs and all in this field?
Mm, it might. So, so if you're talking about degree, like university degree, sometimes it might. Some companies do want to know that you've gone to university, you've been taught. Because apart from the actual content of your university or your higher institution, one of the things you learn is how to meet deadline. Okay, because most of those lecturers don't care how busy you are. They give you an assignment they want you to deliver. If you don't deliver, you fail. So companies tend to lean towards people who have such experience, keeping to deadline and being able to deliver whatever you've been assigned, regardless of your current situation. So it might be an advantage. Um, but most companies don't really hire you because of that. It might just be an advantage. Eventually, if they have like four candidates, that might be what they will look at and say, "Oh, look, this guy has his degree and has a first class." That means either he's much more hardworking, or he just find a way to manipulate himself. But regardless, we want somebody who is able to, regardless of the situation around him, was able to get this degree out of this university to be applying for this job now. So it might have an impact in terms of giving you some sort of advantage, but I do not think any tech company will hire you because of your certificates. Not in this kind of tech anyway. There are some tech that require you to have certifications and so on. Okay. But another thing is you don't want that to be your deterrent, I guess that's the word. You don't want that to stop you from applying to certain jobs. Okay. While degree or certification might give some sort of advantage when it comes to like head to head. When in football, when two clubs have the same point, they now check how many goals they've scored against them and so on and so forth. That might be where your degree comes in. But in the actual sense, most companies just want to see that you can get your hands on the job and you can deliver. So your degree might be an advantage if you have it, but if you don't have it, I don't think you need to worry too much. And to be fair, even me, like I mentioned earlier, my first degree was in science lab. So, you know, in Lautech in Ogomosho. So sorry for all this truth clearing. So it's and no company, and I've worked for a few companies. No, none of them has ever asked, except for Cool FM. Yeah, except for that company. Have ever asked me for, can you bring your certificate? Not even one. Even the current one did not even ask me. They don't even know if I went to university. It was when I was doing my master's thesis that I told them, look, I need to take some time off to go and defend this. And they were like, oh, wait, you're doing master's? I said, yes, I'm doing master. So anyway, your degree might be an advantage, but it shouldn't. It really, many companies don't want to hire because of just the degree. They want to see that you can get the job done and you can get it done well. So if you have a degree that's not really related to what you're trying to apply to, I would say put it there as long as it's a degree that you're proud of. Not like you had a bad degree. And what a bad degree means is if you did a course that you came out with fail, you don't want to have that course on your CV, okay? Because you didn't succeed at that course. Do you understand? And I don't even know if fail is a thing. I'm just saying that if you did, for example, project management course and you failed it, you would not put that on your CV, right? You wouldn't say, I attempted to do project management, I did the PM1 exam and I failed, and you now put that on your CV. No, you wouldn't. So if your degree is something that is not even related to the job you're trying to apply to, but you did well, reasonably well, you passed to an extent, even if it's not some first class or second class or whatever, but at least you know you didn't fail. They didn't ask you to leave the school. You didn't fail. You can definitely put that on your CV. Yeah, it might be the advantage that you need. So let me pause the video. So I tailored that CV based on the thing I was applying for. I moved my education just to the last part, and you would see that the highest education I have there, sorry, the lowest education I have there is my first degree. I do have like two others, but I only have my first degree, which is the one in Lautech, 2013. So, and that's because, again, the opportunity I was applying for would see this first degree as an advantage. Okay, I'm applying to say, look, I'm a tech founder who has a degree in science, laboratory technology, specialized in physics, electronics, and I've done, uh, you know, business analysis. I've done entrepreneurship. I have Google certification. I have experience this and that and this and that. So all of that are me focusing on things that will give me advantage for this particular opportunity. If I was applying for a developer role, this is not the CV I will send to them, obviously, because the developer role will likely be more interested in things that I did technically in these companies. Not that, oh, I founded a company. Nobody cares. I say, if you're trying to work as a developer, you don't want to say I founded a company. That's not an advantage to you as a developer because anybody, people who found companies might not necessarily be developers. Okay. So if I was applying for a developer role, I would have a different CV. It would not be this. While the companies might be the same, I would only highlight the things in those companies that relates to development. So for example, in the Zuri team, I would say I've been the head of development for the past 4 years since 2020. I would also highlight the things I've been able to build as an individual under Zuri team. I would mention Zuri, but obviously I'll mention the website. I'll mention other applications that I've built. I will not even talk anything about being the one that founded the company. Okay. So you will need to find a way. So which is why it's necessary to identify the kind of jobs that you want. Because if you don't know the kind of jobs you want, you will not know how to tailor your CV. Your CV does not have to be individual to each company. It just has to group certain companies together and say, okay, if I'm applying for this type of company, I would put these kind of things in my CV. If I'm applying to a fintech, I would be more focused on things that apply to them. So if I was applying to a fintech, like I was almost applying to a Flutter with a few when they wanted to expand to the UK. Anyway, if I was applying to a fintech, I will focus on things that will be more interesting to a fintech company. I will not say, oh, I built Zuribond. A fintech company would likely not care about Zuribond. They will care about things that has to do, okay, did you work on anything that does deal with finance? Have you ever had to integrate a payment platform before? What do you think about the payment platform? What did you achieve when you try implement the payment platform? I will talk about the plugins I've written for WordPress. I wrote a Vento plugin for WordPress a couple of years ago. I will talk about that no matter how old it is. Okay. So I would highlight the things that the company would be interested in, that they would want to see achieved in their company. Okay, question. Uh, so in summary, we should have different CV. Yeah, that's the point. That's the summary. Not necessarily different jobs. It will be different category of job, different type of jobs. Okay, so if you are applying to be a junior front end developer, you need to tailor your CV to show the minimum, the things you've been able to achieve. So you don't want your CV to look like a senior developer CV and you're applying to junior roles. That's going to be difficult. And I do have an experience in that. I applied to booking.com. I think some of you will know booking.com. It's a very global company that does hotel booking and other kind of bookings anyway. So I applied there and I passed the first interview, passed the second one. The third one, they said, look, um, your CV does not match your experience, which is quite, that's a very fair thing to say. Just wasn't nice to say the way they said it. Like your CV does not match your experience. Your CV sounds like you are a junior because I was really applying to a much junior role for a lot of reasons. But when we've spoken with you, we see that you are not necessarily, you didn't represent yourself well in your CV. So unfortunately, we can't proceed because for this role, we need somebody who truly, has an experience that matches the CV you sent to us. Okay, so they were looking for much junior. They were looking for people that just left school that will come and learn in the company for 12 months and so on and so forth. I wanted to just try out and see what happens. Okay, so you don't want to tailor the CV in such a way that it doesn't necessarily represent you, but you just want to make sure that it properly presents you in a way that you are most valuable to the company. Um, yeah, okay. Prince, your hand is up. Please go on. Oh, sorry. Hold on, Prince. If anyone is willing to share their CV for us to look at now, just send it to the chat or send me a link and we'll look at it now together. Please go on, Prince. Prince, we can't hear you if you're speaking.
Sir.
Hi.
So I want to ask a question in respect to when applying for a developer role. Does it
Yeah.
make sense if I have actually had the opportunity to teach, let's say JavaScript before, if I should include it that I was able to teach or train some set of students in JavaScript?
Yeah, it might be relevant. It might. It depends on what the company does. So if you're applying to Zuri and you tell me you've taught before, I'll probably be happy to have you. But if you're applying to a company who doesn't really care much about what you're teaching, or if they don't do anything about that has to do with community or whatever, that might not be an advantage. Okay. What you can do is to say you've mentored rather than call it teaching. That sort of makes you appear like you do know what you're doing. If you say you've been able to mentor people, and even if they are not exceptionally placed right now, you can mention that, oh, I was um I was responsible for, so I did this personally. I learned the person that said is an alumnus of Lautech can should probably know SQI. I learned HTML and CSS at SQI. That was probably my first coding experience. So after I finished learning, they didn't want me to leave. They gave me a job to start teaching others. So that would probably be an advantage if I'm able to phrase it in such a way that seems like um my school found me valuable enough to ask me to teach others. So so you see that it's a bit individualized, that it's not really a general thing that you can say, oh, I thought, and that would be an advantage. But if you put it in such a way that it appeals to them, uh, the kind of things that they do, that might be an advantage for you. On the other hand, if you don't present it properly, if you or you just say that I was able to teach JavaScript, that might not be an advantage. If you can't say, the result of your teaching, did you achieve anything? Did your students go on to become employees of certain companies? Uh, things like that. So yeah, it's very, very individual. You have to just look at it and look at the company and look at how to present it in such a way that it appeals to whoever is going to be reading it. Okay. And again, if you've done your best in your CV and they don't reach out to you, it just means you're not fit for them. You move on to the next one. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I will read. Right, somebody is sharing their CV. Okay, I will share my screen and open the CV. Is it okay if I record though? The person sharing CV.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, cool. So I will leave the recording on. I will then share my screen and then we'll look at it together. Okay, so Chinedu's CV seems reasonable enough. Um, can you see my screen now? I'm not sure my screen is frozen. Okay, it's not frozen. Okay, all right. And I'm going to be looking at.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm going to be looking at this as a personal, based on the things that I personally like and don't think should be there. How many pages? Is this one page? Nice. It's one page. The lettering seems quite small though. Can I make it bigger? Okay. So you have your what you do, software engineering. Um, I would say that's not really specialized enough, but I guess it's fine depending on what you're applying for. And the problem with tech roles, let me tell you guys, the problem with tech role is sometimes those that will look at your CV and not tech people. So if you're applying to a job that says we're looking for front-end developers, and you really, as a software engineer, you could be able to do front-end developments. The person that is looking at your CV, who is not a tech person, who is just an HR person who did HR training and has certificate in HR, will look at you and say, well, it's a software engineer, it's not a front-end developer, and just dump your CV somewhere. So if you are applying to a back-end role with this CV, I would say just change the title to fit the role you're applying to or the type of role you're applying to, or write it in such a way. You remember mine, I wrote founder and CEO because the company that the opportunity I was applying for was actually saying founders, but I then wanted to make it in such a way that if I was applying for something that I wanted to see me as a CEO, they would also see I could use the same CV. So what you could do, you could write software engineer, maybe slash backend or something, whatever you're applying for. Um, that might be an advantage. Let me see what. Okay, how do I write my CV? You can't write your CV without an experience. It doesn't make any sense to have a CV. I don't know what you mean without experience, though. Maybe if you can explain better. Do you mean without any tech experience or without any experience at all, like any kind of work experience? If you could reply to that, that would be great. I like the name, though. The name is clear enough. I don't know why it's so big because I think it could be smaller. But you don't, it's still one page, so I guess it's fine. If you had more than one page, I would have been worried that you could use the space for something else instead of having your name so big. All right. So I was trying to get a bit more comfortable. Let's see. Okay, another CV. I mean, we'll do the best we can. I don't like the word objective. I'd rather say summary or profile or something. Objective says something else. Objective talks about what you are trying to achieve, not what you've achieved. So right now you're telling us of yourself and your past, but you called it objective. So I would rather change it to something else. This is like your summary, profile summary, or job experience summary. So definitely change this from objective. I'm eager to okay, I'll just read this part. I am a motivated I don't like this. Personally, I'm a motivated software engineer with 4 years experience. Remove the plus. Just, you know how many years been working now. No need to add plus. Just tell us experience. During this time, I have designed and developed. All right, hold on. Somebody sent me a message. All right, okay. Just clarifying. Okay. Okay. I've developed solutions used by thousands of users across the globe. That's a bold statement. That's a bold statement. Okay. My skills extend. You can't use skills and extends. Skills extend or skill extends. Do you understand? You can't have two plural like that. Okay. Both front end and back end using languages like JavaScript, C program, and TypeScript for front end. TypeScript for front end. Also, ah, expertise in both SQL. So I see what you're trying to say, but it's not really coherent enough, I would say. I think you should just maybe rewrite this and make it just easier to flow along and to read. Um, I am a software engineer with 4 years experience. I have worked with teams and as an individual and developed solutions that are being used by thousands of people across the globe. I do both front end and back end with languages such as JavaScript, C, Why did you say C programming? Is that a language or is this C? Do you mean C?
Yeah,
Or
let's see.
oh, you mean C? Okay. So just say
Mm.
C. Programming is not. Okay. C,
Yeah,
TypeScript, and don't say for front end. Just okay. I do front end market using languages like this and this. I am also experienced in database management using tools like MySQL, and this is just the language. So I would rather say using tools like Postgres, MongoDB, and Firebase. Okay.
uh,
Um, I am I am looking forward to applying my extensive experience in programming and my strong analytical skills to improve and to drive product in your company. Don't ever ask for a fast-paced environment, please. Please don't do that. All right. So I would say rewrite this to make it less just be yourself and write simple statement. Also, don't ask for please, nobody should ask for fast-paced environment. Don't do that. Okay.
yeah.
It's not an advantage to you. It's only an advantage to the employee. So it's not really an advantage to you. Okay. Um, experience. I'm a web developer. Um, I don't. Okay, this is what somebody says, or what? I don't. This
Yeah,
was it.
yeah, that's what clients reviewed after the
Oh,
project. Yeah,
what the client said about your work.
yes, sir.
Yeah, so this picture is not properly painted because it's quite confusing to say awesome flow. This was a review from one of the tech team members that used the web app. So tell me about the web app and then say, um, the web app achieved so much impact that customers said blah blah blah. Do you understand? Don't start with what the customer said and then I'll put the actual thing in there in between. Now, I don't even know what you did. So I just take your word for it that the customer said awesome flow. Maybe you said it yourself and you just told me that the customer said it. So I would rather you just tell me about the thing that you did. And possibly as an evidence, you can say evidenced by customers review saying blah blah. Okay. I would
Yeah,
say just I think you have good experience, good skills. You've done a couple of things. I would just say just write it in such a way that whoever is reading it can get a clear picture of what you are offering them. And no mistakes, no errors, no like a comma should be here. You say
mm,
also, there should be a comma because you have to rest in between also and the next thing. By the way, you don't need also here. Okay? You don't need to have also here. So I would say
mm,
check the way you write it, make sure it flows, rewrite it and just make it easy for anybody to understand. Just assume that whoever is going to be reading this is not a tech person. So if you write things like so if you write things like this, you need to make them understand these are actually database management softwares or software, sorry, not softwares, software. Okay. So
mm,
because sometimes, like I mentioned, some of them are not tech people. They'll just look at the list that the tech director gave them and say, "Ah, it doesn't have this one, it doesn't have that one. This one will not be a good fit." Okay.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I would just say rewrite some of these things. Your freelancing experience. I mean, you don't have a company here. Why don't you have a company there?
It's at the last slide. That was the first, yeah, central box
So
solution.
try to help me understand. Is this? Hold on, let me make this bigger. By the way, I have to go in like 10 minutes, guys. I have to go and pick up my daughter from school. Okay, so is this one job?
Yeah, it's a contract.
Okay, then I would you see the main issue I see with your CV is presentation. It's a bit scattered it's difficult for me to follow. For example, I'm seeing web developer, it's a freelance thing and it's in Abuja, and the customer said it's about this. But I feel like you could just do a better job at presenting this. If it's a freelance and this is a freelance, you could fuse all this together and say, I have 7 years experience as a freelancer, during which time I developed on the side, I developed this, I developed that. And the result shows in the customer satisfaction and user acquisition. So I think that carries more power than having such a long list that is difficult for me to follow and understand. So I would just say rewrite it. I think you have good experience. You just have to rewrite some of these things and highlight your achievements, your results more than just a list of the things you did. Yeah, okay, we could come back to this later once you're able to apply some of the feedback. But I would like to look at somebody else's CV now, if that would be okay. Also, I don't see your GitHub link here. You
It's on the
definitely,
last slide. It's on the last slide.
oh, here. Why not just put it where you have other links
Yeah.
like here? Just put it on the side here. So it's, just right there. All right, cool.
Okay.
All right, no problem. Yeah, I'm not sure this is an advantage anyway, but it's fine. It depends on what you're applying to. All right, thank you for sharing yours. We would probably come back to this when you've been able to apply some of the things I've said. But let me quickly
Okay.
look at somebody's else own. There are a couple of people that have posted, but I will just look at one and then we'll continue the rest later in another class. So the question of how do I write my experience without any tech, how do I write my CV without any tech experience is a question I get almost every year. And I always say you find a way to adapt it. Okay. And it really depends on the company you're applying to. So I have experience in, I think like most people that grew up in Lagos, after secondary school, I started teaching all these after school classes. That's a teaching experience. I also have experience teaching in during NYC, where I taught a couple of people in English and maths, and then I taught them web development. If I am applying to an ed tech company, I would definitely put that in my CV. Okay. If I'm applying to a job that has a lot of customer facing aspect, I'll probably put that in my CV and then tell them I have experience interacting with actual users and solving their problems. Okay. That's a way to sort of adapt that my teaching experience to a customer facing solution that or company that I'm applying to. Even though I'm not applying as a customer support, I'm telling you that I've actually dealt with individuals that meet your target audience and I've had a chance to interact with them and I can bring that valuable experience to your company. Some people here attended mosque or fellowships or church fellowships in the university, and you are leaders in your fellowships or in your mosque. That could be a valuable experience to add even to your CV. I'm not even joking here. You could say I've been during the university, I was given the opportunity to lead a group of students of blah blah amount, maybe 7,000 students or whatever it is that you led. And during which time we're able to achieve this and this. I could bring my valuable experience at leading, teams to your team. So it really depends on what kind of job you're applying to. If you don't have any tech experience, you could adapt any experience that you have to those jobs, but you cannot stop there. Okay, you have to acquire some tech experience. It doesn't have to be actual jobs that you get from a job. It could be something like, our own CDT, or it could be some volunteering role you've done before, or it could be some software you've been involved in building, or it could be some just practice project that you've done. You just need to acquire some additional experience. Your non-tech experience might not be enough to actually land a tech role. Obviously, this is my opinion. I might be wrong. Okay, so that's what I would say about that question. Let's quickly have a glance at Divine's CV before. Oh, Divine, I think we had a problem with your CV when you submitted for the assignment. When it came to this page, instead of opening um the actual CV. So see, I have to download it. I think this is why we couldn't really grade your CV then, because it's now going to be a zip file. I have to unzip it and then open it. See, this is the problem I had with your CV that time. So how do I open it now? Because it's not opening. This is an issue. Just make a normal PDF. I don't want to install something just to open your CV. Am I missing something? Wait, did you reply? Oh, you didn't reply. Wait, if I'm missing something, just let me know because it's not opening. If I click on this,
Click on open with browser.
where is it? Oh, yeah. Wow. I didn't even know that was there. Nice. Okay. Sorry, I didn't know that was there. But anyway, that's the issue we had with your CV there. Okay, cool. Um, yeah, you don't, and you could have it there, but it's just like wasting space, in my opinion. I think this is fine. You don't have your role there, though. I would ask that you put your role somewhere up here. Sorry, my son is banging on the door. I would like that you put your role somewhere up here. So if you can do that, that would be great. Okay, moving on. My summary, I'm passionate. So make it a personal. So you are the one writing it, right? Just say I am a passionate. Wait, that would probably be wrong. Passionate mass communication graduate. I don't know what this means. What does it mean to be a passionate mass communication graduate? Like I graduated with mass comm, but I'm also passionate about it. Okay, I guess that's what you mean. But I will just make this a bit more personal. I am a graduate of mass communication. I'm passionate and eager to dive into the world of front-end development. I'm skilled at this and this and this. I have high level experience writing. I'm just saying this off the top of my head. I have high level experience writing communication. What is that word itself? Like when you write content, okay, that could be a valuable thing to have as a front-end developer. I'm social media savvy and customer centric with a knack for engaging audiences. I feel like your sentences are a bit. I am proficient in various computer technologies and software packages, including Microsoft Office and Excel, ready to bring creativity, technical expertise to your team. Okay, so this is a bit more general. If you're applying for a front-end role, you don't want to add Microsoft Office to your CV, okay? You want to be as front-endy as possible. I will say that about your summary. You need to rewrite the summary to be a bit more focused on whatever you're applying for. And that would also determine what you have as your, position here. My skills are this and this. So if a couple of skills are a non-negotiable thing that you should have, and I would say you don't necessarily have to put those as special skills. Whoa, what did I do? I think I did something. Sorry, I did something. You don't have to put those as special skills. If you are a front-end developer, it's just normal that you write HTML and CSS. And obviously you do responsive design. So I would say put things like React JS, put testing and debugging, I would not put this, to be fair with you. I would not put this because you're applying for a front-end role. If you're applying for a UI UX role, then definitely put UI UX there. Yeah, I would say, I just take this out. Don't don't put yourself at risk of getting to wear multiple hats. Okay. Are these job experiences? Because if that's the case, I would say you shouldn't put Zuri as a job experience. Um, this is a training or education experience, not a job experience. This is a job experience. This is a job experience, and this is education. So I will move Zuri down to education or other experiences or something. And I'll find a way. If this CV is for front-end development, I'll find a way to adapt this to my front-end skill and say, for example, as a human resource person, I had the opportunity of working with several people. I was customer facing and staff facing at the same time. I have experience dealing with situations that include both the customer and the staff. I can effectively work in a team. I can be a team lead and be led by somebody or something. I can manage, and I'm really good at documentation. So human resource people are usually good at documentation. So that could be a way for you to adapt this experience to a front-end role if that's what you're applying to. This is definitely a good thing for you as a front-end developer because now you know how to balance information you get from your team lead, from your team members, and so on and so forth, and be able to apply it. You're able to do a lot of research as a front-end developer. You could adapt all of this to meet those things. Okay, so I need to stop doing this now. We will definitely have another class, possibly later this week, hopefully by Saturday. But I'll call the person with the hand up now. For everyone that sent their CV, don't worry. In the next class, I'll ask again, and we'll do this one more time. But I would like that you already go and apply some of the things I've said, so I don't just come back and repeat everything I'm saying again. All right, 5 minutes to go. Oladepo, um, please
Yeah,
talk.
yeah, yeah. Good evening.
Yeah, I think you have multiple devices connected, so you need to turn one off.
Yeah, sorry about that. Good evening. You mentioned something earlier about having, if someone has a kind of position they've led in school, maybe in mosque or in church.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my CV, I was studying in Nigeria. I was studying in Futa, but then I didn't complete before I left to
Mm-hmm.
study outside. So
Yeah.
now I had some things I did in Futa that could have been better off in my CV, but because I felt if I added Futa to my CV and I didn't complete the years because I spent just 3 years in Futa instead of 5 years before I left. So I removed it, but then I had a position that I held when I was in a religious settings in Futa. So I felt if I added it, it should have been a question that, okay, you said you had a position in Futa, but it is never on your CV that you attended Futa. So how can that be solved? Do you think it is okay to just put the Futa there, or I shouldn't bother putting anything about Futa on the CV at all? Thank you.
I mean, yeah, thanks for the question. You don't necessarily have to mention, so it could even be in your summary, it could be in your profile summary and saying something like, I'm a blah, 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 whatever you want to say. And then you could just add it in there. I've had experience leading a team of 2,000 students, and blah, blah. So it might not necessarily be a bullet point that you had as part of your CV. It could just be part of your summary, just to say that, look, had a chance to lead a team of students before to do this. If they want to ask about it during the interview, fine, you can explain all these things you've just mentioned, but you don't necessarily have to add it as I feel like I should have clarified this. You don't have to add those things as job experiences because they truly are not job experiences. Okay. It could just form part of your content in your CV, either in your summary or as part of one of the jobs you've done. Okay. You could just add it in there. But hopefully that was helpful, Oladipo, about just adding it as part of your summary or as some part of your content, not necessarily highlighting it as a job experience, because really it was not a job experience. Okay. Normally, why the reason why I say some of those things are not job experience, a job is a, wait a minute, Deborah. Okay, a job is a place where you actually sign the contract to work with them, or you agreed, even if it's not like a signed contract, but you agreed to work for somebody or for a company. If you don't have the agreement, if what you've done is to learn from them or done some training with them, that's not going to qualify as a job experience because sometimes the company you're applying to would ask that they can we contact this job you've said you have experience with. And personally, we've gotten a lot of emails from people who say people claim to work for Zuri. Can you provide us a reference as to the work they did with you? For example, what was their pay, or what kind of contract did they had, what kind of jobs did they do for you? And sometimes I just tell this company like, look, I know this person, I have their record, but as a student, I don't have their record as an employee. So you need to be as clear as possible with those things, so you don't cause yourself some trouble. Because I've had somebody who lost a job because so he applied to KPMG and they contacted me to say we have this person applying and they've passed the interview. We just need to confirm that they actually did work with you at Zuri. Unfortunately, they did not really work with me. The problem is that, I could have just said, yes, they did, I could have just said that just to cover up, but they required me to fill some information, like their payroll. They said, can I connect them to the HR department to guide? I was like, look, I don't have time for all this. I can't hook up all these things for you on the fly. Okay. So, I mean, especially for Zuri, just be careful when you had Zuri. If you do CDT, we will definitely have you sign a contract that will show that you have an employee contract with us, and we will do all this documentation that we need to do so that if they ask us for reference, we can provide the reference. But if we don't do all of that, I can't just forge reference for you because our company is still very small. We can't start getting involved in all those things now. Okay, yeah, that will be the end of the class because I really have to go now. I'll schedule another one later this week. But please try and apply some of the things that we've said. Yeah, I said CDT, Ifeoluwa. That's what I said. I said CDT. Um, all right, Mike, please go on. I'll take your question before I leave. So I'm
Okay,
standing
okay,
up now.
okay. I just want to quick, it's not a question about the C, it's about the CBT because you have not given us a price yet, so that I can find a way to raise the money. Because last time I heard it was 100K, and I thought you said you wanted to, you're still, so I don't know if there's any information about it so that, people like us that
Yeah,
are not yet working, we can plan ahead and see how we can raise money on time and,
yeah, I know. I'm trying to work that out with some people. I'm also interviewing people that will be helping me run those programs. So I need to consult with a lot of people before we can make a decision on the actual price. So just give me a little more time. I'll definitely announce um when I have something more concrete. But regardless of whatever you see publicly, you get your promised discount. I just don't know what it will be yet because if you be working with senior people, you have to make sure they also feel like it's worth their time to an extent. So I'll let you guys know once I have something more concrete to share. All right. All right. That's all for now. I will do some editing on the video before I upload it, but it should be up, it should be on YouTube um later this week. All right, thanks guys. Bye.